Hi, I'm Phil Norse, one of the trainers at the Powerplate Academy. One of the questions that we get asked the most is, can Powerplate assist in reduction in body fat levels and body weight? And if so, what are the mechanisms behind this? So today I just wanted to have a quick look at some of the research evidence that exists to suggest that yes, Powerplate can help us reduce our body weight and body fat levels, and also research which suggests reasons why this may be the case. But initially I wanted to have a quick look at the concept of energy balance. It really is the fundamental principle behind why we lose or gain body weight. And it really is as simple as energy in versus energy out. Energy in being comprised largely of our food consumption in calories. But it's also important to take into account how the amount of calories we excrete interacts with this. Yes, not every calorie that we take in through our mouth ends up being utilised by our body. A certain percentage of this will be excreted when we go to the toilet. Energy out is comprised of our basal metabolic rate, our basic metabolism, the amount of calories we utilise just to keep us alive, often expressed as the amount of calories burnt while we're sleeping. And indeed, the way we eat can affect our basal metabolic rate. So indeed, the energy in can actually affect the energy out. Energy out also includes heat production, thermogenesis, and of course, physical activity. Powerplate can affect two of these areas. Clearly, it's a form of physical activity. There's a calorie burn while we're exercising, but possibly regular Powerplate use can affect our basal metabolic rate, our metabolism. We know that exercise does this generally, but perhaps Powerplate can play an additional role, and we'll see some evidence behind that later on. So what current research evidence exists? Well, here's a selection. In this 2009 study by Vissers et al., which was presented at the European Congress on Obesity in Amsterdam, there was a large group of obese adults. They were followed for a period of 6 months, during which they were exposed to one of 4 interventions, and then following this 6-month period, there was no intervention, but they were measured at the end of that period. So the first group were on a low-calorie diet only. The second group, a low-calorie diet plus a cardio and weights fitness program, a more conventional fitness program. Group 3 received the low-calorie diet and the Powerplate fitness program, and Group 4 were a control group. They made no changes to their lifestyle. We can see the graph on the right-hand side of the screen there. We can ignore the black line, that was the control group. The pink line represents the low-calorie diet and fitness group, the grey line the diet group, and the blue line the low-calorie diet and Powerplate exercise group. We can see that all 3 groups have significant weight loss in the first 3 months. From the 3rd month to the 6th month, the Powerplate group's weight loss was at a significantly greater rate than the diet and the fitness groups, which had largely plateaued. And then following the cessation of any intervention, we can see that the rate of weight gain was most rapid in the diet-only group, perhaps what we would expect, and the Powerplate and the conventional fitness group kept this weight off relatively well. So we can say that the Powerplate group lost by far the most weight across the 6 months of the intervention and the 12 months of the whole study, and that the weight loss was well maintained after they stopped the Powerplate training. When they looked at the reduction in visceral fat, basically a form of fat which builds up within the abdomen, a very graphic picture there to depict that, we can see the results on the right hand side of the screen again. Once again, we can largely ignore the black line, the control group, and have a look at the other 3 lines. Once again, we see all 3 groups have a very significant reduction in visceral fat across the first 3 months. From month 3 to month 6, however, the diet and the fitness group, for whatever reason, started to regain this visceral fat, whereas the Powerplate group continued to lose it at the same rate. So by the end of the intervention, at 6 months, the Powerplate group had lost significantly more visceral fat than either of the other 2 groups. Furthermore, once they finished the intervention from month 6 to month 12, both the diet and the fitness group continued to regain this visceral fat very quickly, whereas the Powerplate group at the very least maintained it, perhaps even continued to lose at a slow rate. So an interesting study by Vissers et al. A study by Fjeldstad et al. In 2009 looked at body composition. It took 55 postmenopausal ladies and put them into either a resistance training only group or a power plate strength training only group. There was also a control group again. In the resistance group, they did 3 sets of 10 repetitions at 80% of their 1 rep max, and their 1 rep max was retested every 4 weeks to make sure they were working at the appropriate level. They trained 3 times a week for 8 months and performed 10 exercises: shoulder press, hip abduction, hip adduction, abdominal flexion, wrist curls, lat pull down, lat row, leg press, hip flexion, and hip extension. The vibration strength group, on the other hand, they started at a low intensity, only 15 seconds on the power plate, at 30 Hz on a low amplitude. The frequency and the duration were gradually increased during the course of the study, as you would expect. By the time they finished the study, they were working for 2 sets of a minute on 40 Hz, still on the low amplitude, for each exercise. There was 15 seconds rest between each vibration exercise bout. They too exercised 3 times a week for a period of 8 months. But interestingly, they only did 3 exercises: a shoulder press against the straps in a seated position, a wrist curl against the straps, and a dynamic squat. These graphs show the impact upon body fat percentage, fat mass, so the total amount of fat in the body, and also the bone-free lean tissue mass. So basically how much lean tissue exists in your body if you remove your skeleton from the equation. And we can see that the grey bars, that was the resistance training group, the black bars, that's the vibration resistance group, and the white bars are the control group. If we look at body fat percentage, the vibration resistance group saw the largest reduction in body fat percentage. They also saw the largest reduction in fat mass by a long way, and by a smaller margin, the largest increase actually in bone-free lean tissue mass, so muscle mass. So in all 3 areas, positive implications upon body composition for the group that were training on the power plate. And of course, what's also important to bear in mind is they only performed 3 exercises as opposed to the 10 exercises by the other group, so significantly lower exercise volume. And although the exercise volume was lower, they experienced a greater reduction in body fat percentage, fat mass, and a greater improvement in muscle mass. This study by Roelants et al. From 2006 looked at muscle engagement and muscle fibre recruitment, and perhaps starts to at least explore why some of these benefits may be occurring. They took a large group of people and they had them perform a series of exercises: a half squat or a mid-range squat, a low squat or deep squat, and a one-leg or single-leg squat. You can see that's represented by HS, LS, and OL in the diagrams. They measured the muscle fibre recruitment, should I say electrically, across 4 muscle groups. They looked at vastus medialis, rectus femoris, and vastus lateralis, so 3 of the 4 quadriceps, and gastrocnemius in the calf muscle. The black bars were the muscle fibre engagement, muscle fibre recruitment with vibration, the white bars without vibration. So you can see in every muscle group, in every exercise, significantly more muscle fibre being recruited, being utilised, being engaged when they were using the vibration platform versus training on the floor. So in layman's terms, we can say that they were training a larger percentage of their muscle in any given exercise. Instinctively, we can understand the potential implication this could have upon calorie burn, energy consumption, weight status, etc. A study from last year by Hazell and Lemon looked specifically at oxygen utilisation and metabolism. It had 2 groups of people, either exercising on a vibration platform at 45 Hz on a low amplitude, or the other group performing the same exercise on the platform but with the vibration off. There was 5 sets of 6 exercises, 30 seconds per set, 15 reps per set, and across the 30-minute exercise session, that resulted in 15 minutes of actual exercise. The exercises they used are shown in the presentation: pelvic bridge, push-up, tricep dip, lunge on both legs, hence that was considered 2 exercises, and a squat performed dynamically. These exercises show the oxygen utilization, or these graphs, show the oxygen utilization and heart rate during exercise. So the black bars are the oxygen utilization or heart rate while they were being vibrated. The grayer bars, the lined bars, they're the oxygen utilization or heart rate for the group exercising on the platform but with no vibration. So you can see, just by looking at the graphs, significantly more oxygen being utilized during exercise, and also the fact that these individuals were working at a higher heart rate throughout the exercise session. So as I said in the conclusion, during exercise, those working on the vibration platform utilized significantly more oxygen and worked at greater heart rates than those exercising without the vibration. More oxygen is consumed when more fuel, i.e. calories from fat, carbohydrate, etc., is being metabolized or burnt. They also looked at the oxygen consumption following exercise, so the post-exercise burn. Once again, we can see that the vibration group, the WBV group, versus the no vibration group, the vibration group had significantly more oxygen being consumed, both for the 8 hours following exercise and also for the 24-hour period following exercise. So that's what we're seeing in the two graphs. Graph A is showing total oxygen consumption in the 8 hours following exercise. Graph B, total oxygen consumption in the 24-hour period following exercise. So we can see in both graphs far more oxygen being utilized, i.e. contributing to metabolism of energy sources, both for 8 hours and 24 hours following exercise. So as I've noted, in the 8-hour and 24-hour period following the exercise session, the vibration trained group consumed notably more oxygen than the non-vibrated group, thus showing a far higher level of metabolism following vibration exercise. Their overall conclusion was, assuming constant energy intake and similar energy expenditure differences with a 4-session per week, 16-week training program, one would expect a 4 kilogram fat loss with vibration training versus a 2 kilogram fat loss with no vibration. Highly beneficial to have double the amount of fat being burnt, being lost across a 16-week period, across a year, across 5 years, etc., than exercise performed on the floor, or obviously on a vibration platform that wasn't vibrating. So what conclusions can we draw? Well, power plate training appears to have a positive effect upon body fat levels, body fat percentage, visceral fat levels, and body weight. Power plate strength training brings about an increased recruitment of muscle fibers in any given exercise. Total oxygen utilization, a good measure of metabolism, is greater both during and following power plate exercise than for the same exercise performed without vibration. So what recommendations can we make? Well, clearly follow a sensible, calorie-controlled diet and potentially seek advice from a dietitian. We have to take into account both halves of that energy balance equation, both energy in and energy out. Utilize the power plate for strength training 2 to 3 times a week for 15 to 30 minutes. Focus upon multi-joint compound exercises such as squats, lunges, push-ups, etc., as they utilize the most muscle mass and therefore have the greatest impact upon energy burn during exercise and following exercise. And also engage frequently in cardiovascular exercise. I hope you found that interesting, hope you found it useful. If you have any additional questions, feel free to drop me an email. My email address is on the screen and it's philip.norse@powerplate.com. Thank you for listening.